for joining me. Well, today we're going to take a look at the third part of the process, and this phase is the growth and thriving stage. So we've moved on from surviving through acceptance, and now we're into growth and thriving. What we're doing is building on some of those successful behaviours that we might have tried in the acceptance stage that we were aware we were doing, and now we're actually sort of bringing these in so that they are more normal, they're more part of what we do. Usual caveat, bad days notwithstanding, we can all slide back a little bit, and that's all it is. It's a slide back. Think of it the same way as you would maybe getting over an illness or getting over an injury. You'd be making a good recovery, you know you're making a good recovery, then something can happen. You just might have a busy day, a tiring day, you might have pushed it a bit too far and you're thinking, gosh, that's not as good as I wanted it to be. What do you do? You rest up and then you find, actually, yeah, I'm still making good progress here. My dominant message here is, please be kind to yourselves. Hope you enjoy the next slide and the commentary that goes with it, and I'll see you at the end. Thanks.
Right, I'm very happy to take the fair criticism here that some of the things I focused on in the previous presentations and we're looking at here, they may seem to assume that we all have a pretty neutral to good home environment in which we can deliver on this, and I know that that certainly isn't the case. There are a number of challenges around with just a number of people in the house that aren't usually there. It's overcrowded, it's noisy, it can get a wee bit chaotic, we can get on top of each other, and it's a testing time. I do accept that. That's not going to stop you, however, from advocating that there are some things that you've seen previously that will apply to you, and there are issues, some ideas here that can apply to you. So having set that to one side, let's just concentrate for a couple of seconds on what growth and thriving would mean to you. So at a very personal level, I'd just like you to spend no more than 5 seconds now thinking about what growth and thriving would mean to you. If you want to spend a bit longer than that, pause the track and maybe write down a few ideas. So let's start, shall we? And it's strange, isn't it, what a long time 5 seconds actually is when we're out of when we take that out of our normal sort of conversational time. So let's see if we can make our way around the clock here and come up with some sort of ideas about what we would choose to develop. I'm going to start at 1 o'clock with the notion that we should be focusing on what we can control, and the reason for stating that again is that if all our focus is on what we can't control, then that's actually sending ourselves a pretty negative message. We're placing ourselves in a position of weakness where we are seen by ourselves, and we assume we're seen by others as not being able to cope, and backsliding, emotionally in a damaged place. If we can shift our focus onto what we can control over those small wins that we can gather for ourselves during the course of a day, that actually is a really good stepping stone to move on to the bigger stuff. We can, of course, while we're here, make a conscious decision to appreciate that at home it's somewhere where we don't spend a lot of time. There probably is an opportunity now for us to take more from it than we have done in the past. There's an opportunity maybe to just think about how we, the current layout, do we want to change that? Are there a few things about routines that we just like to get on top of? How's your relationship going with people with whom you live, your kids? Is there something that we can gain from that? Are you, if you've been maybe furloughed from work or laid off from work, can you use that time in a creative way? Maybe, I don't know, looking for other opportunities. It's interesting that I've spoken to a couple of people who have said, if you could, now you've had a practice at surviving on 80% of your pay, if you could work for 80% of the week, so 4 days instead of 5, would you do it? And there's this kind of, oh yeah, I ripped their arm off for it from 1 or 2 people who've come back to me. And that, I think, comes up from appreciating just what that space creates. Now, I need to state again, it's going to mean different things for different people. Let's take a look. I'm helping where I can. This doesn't have to be big stuff. It could be just about reaching out to somebody who you know is isolated. It could be sending them a text. It could be making that phone call. It could be a contact on social media, or it could be some practical help the collecting prescriptions, putting bins out, the recycling. It doesn't have to be the stuff of headlines. It needs to be the stuff that is significant to the person who's receiving your help, and it's significant for you too. And I think one of the first people that we have to help is ourselves. If we can help ourselves by helping others, that we realise that we are of worth and value, and other people recognise that, it's a fantastic elevator of our own spirits, our own self-belief and our own well-being. It enables us, moving towards 5 o'clock, to live in the present moment, where we can actually reflect on what it is we've achieved just then, without stressing about what's happened in the past. You've heard me say it before, we cannot re-author the past, and we would all know, if there's one thing we've learned from this, is that our control over the future is, to say the least, hung on by the fingertips. And I think, if it's taught us anything, it's that we've actually got very little control over our future. So that living in the present moment and savouring what's going on is massively important. If we are doing that, we will find that we feel calmer. And you will recall just a few minutes ago, I asked you to do an exercise, 5 seconds, and just concentrate on what growth and thriving would mean to you. If we can take time out to calm ourselves down, some really good breathing exercises available. If you can put that into YouTube, some first class stuff will come out. We will find that we are being more patient and kinder to ourselves and to others. And let me repeat the same as help. Kindness starts with yourself. You must be kind to yourself so you can be kind to other people, and recognise the impact of what it is you're doing on the quality of their lives and also on the quality of yours. When that's in place, that reaching out, you will feel that you are more connected to people who matter. That's not people who should matter, but people who actually do matter. And it's quite interesting, some of the strangest of things can happen because you've reached out. You understand that connection was a lot more powerful, a lot more significant than you thought it was. What's the impact of that? Well, if we've got ourselves into a position where we are focusing on control, where we are appreciative of the opportunities that we've had presented to us, where we are visibly and intentionally helping others, where we are living and engaging in that present moment, we've calmed down, we are more patient, more kind with ourselves, we've got a sense of connection with other people. I'm going to come to 9 o'clock now and saying you are going to be feeling more joyous and more hopeful. And at times, such as the ones that we're living through, hope is really important. And what I would ask you to do here, and don't dwell on it too long, is to think of what the absence of hope is like. And it's very much like how we were when we look at stage 1, survival. It feels hopeless. And what this process is about growing hope. A number of conversations I've had, a number of articles I've read, items I've listened to, suggest that we may want to redefine how we want to live after this. Already I've spoken to you about some of the responses to, would you work for 80% of your income if that meant doing 80% of the working week, effectively going from 5 days down to 4? Does the stuff that we thought matter? Does that matter so much now? Have we found other things to replace it? And if so, what do those things look like? And if that is the case, how do we acquire for ourselves more of them? How do we adjust the way we're living now, our attitudes, our beliefs about ourselves and other people, so that we can perhaps live in a more productive, a more fulfilling and a more rewarding manner? Once we've achieved this, it's inevitable, I feel, that we will have increased confidence in our own resources and our own strength, not only to affect change, but to cope with change. So as we look back on the notion of growth and thriving, we've moved through from that survival place into one where we've stabilised things, we've accepted things, we're able to perhaps move forward a little bit, and now because of those very positive steps we've taken, we're into an area of growth and thriving. And it's what we're saying is, the journey ahead for me is better now than it might have been had I not taken these positive steps to make an impact on it.
I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking to you now about dealing with what we might perceive as failure. And I think that there's nobody who follows my line of work, fellow coaches and people who mentor and generally engage with people to develop them. I don't think there's any of us that don't encounter a view from our client from time to time. I'm failing at this, and it's such a powerful and such a damning word. And I'd like to try to encourage you to think about it in a slightly different way. And here's how we're going to do it.
Right. A lot of us who watch 24 Hours in A&E or similar will understand the impact of accidents around the home, and it just seems to me that if you want to stay safe, don't do jobs around the house. The one that really has made me sit up and take notice is just the extent of injuries caused when people fall off ladders. And they just go through a list. You've got broken ankles, we've got tib and fib fractures here, knees are dislocated, there's a femoral fracture, we've got a dislocated hip, and the spine has been jarred, and also there's a concussion that we're worried about. So this, just cheer yourself up with that one if you're thinking of doing any DIY tomorrow. But when we are using these words, oh, I've failed, and just think about it, I've fallen off the wagon, I've crashed and burned again. The sort of images that these phrases build for us are actually quite negative and quite destructive. And when we are trying to do something different with the way we're running our lives, the way we're organising ourselves, what we're aspiring to, what we would like to reset, when we're trying to do that and it doesn't work out, it is my view that we all too easily, because the brain is a very lazy thing, jump to the language of failure and the pain that goes with failure. Well, here we go. The fact that you started it means that you haven't failed. It means that actually this time it hasn't worked out quite as well as you'd wanted to. But we certainly haven't fallen off a ladder here. It's my view that something different has happened, and here it is. Okay, so let's see if we can shift the concept. First thing first, I think from working with some sports coaches, there's a constant message: you learn more in defeat than you do in victory. So let's just shift that a little bit. You learn as much from failing as you do from succeeding, providing your approach to failing isn't one where you catastrophize everything. It's one where you say, okay, what do I learn from that? Now, looking at a ladder, that is, you get that wrong, then that is actually pretty catastrophic. But that is not the way most of us fail. Most of us fail in small ways. What happens is then we go straight into the language of catastrophe. We've fallen. I use the helter-skelter because that's quite a powerful image, really. If we slip a bit on the ladder, then we do fall off. If we slip a bit on a helter-skelter, we're just going to go down a couple of feet before we get ourselves under control again. You stick your hands on the side and slow yourself down, stick your feet on the side, slow yourself down, or just basically get yourself back in shape and go down and enjoy the ride. Nothing is broken. If we can think of when things don't go to plan, it is that's happened. We've just slipped by a couple of feet here. I've got it back under control, and now I'm going to have a controlled descent. I'm actually going to enjoy the ride, and with what I've learned, I'm going to have another go at it until I can get myself to as near a perfect descent as is possible for me to do. But most of all, as I'm doing this, I am going to learn and enjoy, and I'm going to use that learning and use the positive experience to inform myself going forward, so I can actually sort of look back on that and say, do you know what, that was pretty good. And you will always get voices and, don't you just love them? Oh, well, you could have done that better. And yes, there is always room for improvement, but if we obsess with perfection, and that binary, it's either brilliant or a complete failure, we are painting ourselves into a very dangerous space here. So what I'm asking to do is to take a look and take from that the elements of success. We're not into an area here where measurements are crucially important, otherwise there is no success. We're looking for generally how we are lining ourselves up to best deal with affecting positive change in our lives as we move forward.
And that brings me to the end of this presentation and indeed this short series where we've been looking at how we can move from surviving to growth and thriving through what is uncharted water for all of us. I'd like to wish you success on your individual journeys. If you feel that you need to get in touch with us, then you've got the reference there on the YouTube clip, and there's always time for a conversation, always time to extend a hand. So good luck everyone, and journey well, journey safely, and it'll take a bit of time, but we will, all of us, get through this together and come out of it the other side, hopefully with a far clearer idea of what we can achieve, that has a positive impact on our lives, so that we can have a positive impact on the lives of others. Thank you and good luck.